Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest edition of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday, which means a weekly roundup as always, and then a match preview looking ahead to Saturday's fixture against playoff chasing Oxford United. Was hoping to be talking about some confirmed transfers coming in after all the talk on Monday, but unfortunately nothing has happened on that front. Seems we are close on a couple. If you have been reading social media today in terms of strikers, Steve Evans has confirmed that he is talking to 2 or 3 clubs regarding a couple of strikers, one being geographically close to us in League One. So I put out a tweet this afternoon. Imagine geographically local could probably mean the likes of MK Dons, Southend, AFC Wimbledon and Pompey. So I had a quick glance through their squads. And the names that I came up with were Kieran Agard of MK Dons, based on the fact that we were linked to him in the summer. Seemingly couldn't get it over the line due to wages. Tom Hopper and Stephen Humphreys are now set to be the main front men at Southend, but there's obviously doubts about that and whether they'd let them two go, because Simon Cox had his contract mutually terminated this morning and has now gone to Australia, joining Western Sydney. Joe Pigott, Wimbledon, their front man. Done all right last season, hasn't been as prolific this due to the form of the lad Force, who was on loan from Brentford, but he has picked up a hamstring problem, has gone back to his parent club. So will Glyn Hodges be willing to let Joe Pigott go in this window unless they can get someone in? You'd imagine he's probably going to be the first choice centre forward now, so doubts over that one. And the last one, Portsmouth, Brett Pittman, previously linked to I think Plymouth and Swindon in League Two, if you believe social media pages, in the know sites and all that, but nothing concrete. Like I say, I have no in the know information. This is just me surmising and thinking out loud, so to speak. So there's a couple there that I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind Joe Pigott or Brett Pittman. I think they bring us something slightly different. Kieran Agard, to be honest, I wasn't fussed in the summer when we didn't get it over the line. I think he's one of them players that's very good in League Two. Doesn't really do enough in the games for me though. Work rate, I'm not sure about. From what I've seen of him playing against us, was virtually anonymous before Christmas for MK Dons when we saw them off 3-1 at the Priestfield. So, but you never know. He's played under Steve Evans before, and if he came in and Steve knows how to get the best out of him, it could be an astute signing. But it's all just hearsay and rumour and conjecture on my part. And talking about strikers and not being able to get them in on good wages, or not being able to get them in because their wages are too high, sorry, at the clubs they're currently at. John Akindi, I spoke about him Monday, and Dominic Samuel, 2 names that have been mentioned, linked to us over the last week or so. Steve Evans has confirmed that both are very good players, but in terms of wages, we cannot afford them. So it's not even players that we've inquired about or spoken to. So not sure where these in the know sites are getting things that these are deals that are pretty much done, because Steve Evans has quashed that in 10 seconds flat this morning in his press conference. So we have to sit tight. Have to wait and be patient for the right type of player at the right type of price to become available and to want to join us. And we know it's never as easy as, you know, Football Manager or FIFA, where you offer an amount, the team says yes, and then you sign the player. It's not a computer game, it's real life, and there's a lot more complications to getting deals over the line in League One than there is on FIFA 20 and stuff like that. So still 2.5 weeks left in the window. So like I say, we have to be patient and trust Steve Evans to have the right targets, and trust Paul Scally to hopefully help Steve Evans get them deals over the line. So fingers crossed, we might have something for Saturday, but it's not looking that likely. I think Evans has confirmed that it is highly unlikely now, unless something develops very quickly. So we'll go with what we've got, and that includes Jordan Roberts, obviously, who joined last week. And in terms of outgoings, another one of these Twitter pages claimed again this afternoon that Conor Ogilvy's on the verge of joining Blackburn Rovers. No fee mentioned, just that it was close. But another one that's taken with a fairly large pinch of salt. Not seen anything concrete from local press our end or anything from anyone near Blackburn. So one to keep an eye on perhaps, and it'd be disappointing if Conor did go, but because he's had a very good season, but not something that I'm expecting to happen right now. Right, talking of Steve Evans, there is a bit and money, and that sort of all links in. He's talking in Thursday's Medway Messenger, very open about the fact that previous clubs that he's been at have had big budgets and huge resources in terms of transfer budget and wages and that type of thing. And he's made no secret of that fact. which is absolutely fine. He's only stating facts that wherever he's been before he's come here, he has had plenty to spend. And he says, this is hugely challenging, talking of the Gillingham job. I've always been at a club which has been well resourced and I've never hidden that. I've got unbelievable support at Peterborough, Mansfield, the same. You don't need finances at Leeds. I was well resourced at Crawley and Rotherham. I never hid it, but I kept winning promotions. My remit here was to not give the chairman sleepless nights towards the end of the season, thinking we may need a couple of wins to stay up. If you measure it on that, then I think we do all right. But I came here thinking, can I do the impossible? And it goes back to what Steve said at the Q&A session shortly after his appointment. He said it'd be lovely to be in and around the top six, but he never promised it, which I think a few fans think he had said and used it as a stick to beat him with when we didn't start the season too greatly. But we're currently 4 points outside the play. 4 or 5, is it? Bear me 2 seconds. Yeah, 5 points off the playoffs with 20 odd games still to play. So, no, just under 20, sorry, 19 games to play. So yeah, we're well in the hunt. And obviously, we have a big game this weekend coming up against another side that are in and around the top six, Oxford United, and I'll get onto them in a bit more detail in a short while. But I tweeted a few weeks ago, I've been one round, I think, in terms of the football that we're playing and the amount of games that we're winning, and the fact that I'm looking forward to go to home games now, because that's not been the case for far too long. I don't think he's done anything wrong since he's arrived. I think we've had one spat with Paul Lambert, which was probably a mountain out of a molehill. Aside from that, I think he's behaved himself, and he certainly made us harder to play against, and he's certainly made us a more attractive proposition for fans to come and watch, and hopefully potential new signings to come and play for us. But one player who we didn't have to sign, who has been the interest of some championship sides recently, has just signed a new contract, is this young man coming up on your screen now. Young Jack Tucker, centre-half, 20 years old, writes for the Shouting Men this week in the Medway Messenger. It's hard to believe I was at Hastings just a year ago is the headline inside today's edition. Jack Tucker, 24 appearances this season, 9 wins in that time and 10 clean sheets. Has played a huge part in making us more defensively sound, making us more difficult to play against. And yeah, it's mad to think that in the summer he was out of contract and could have been moved on, because Steve Evans moved a lot of players on, moved a lot of youngsters on. And at the time, I think some fans said, he doesn't trust youth, he's just going to buy players and bring in all his own people. Well, I think he got rid of the people that he thought weren't right for us, whether that's in terms of ability, attitude, or a mixture of both. And I don't think he's got many wrong so far. If you look at everyone that's been released, I think, aside from Tom Eaves and Thomas Holy, who ran down their contracts, and I don't think Steve Evans had any part to play in that. I think everyone's gone to a lower level than what we are. So that says a lot about Steve Evans, and it also says a lot about the players as well. But yeah, great to see Jack Tucker doing really well. I think I've mentioned before, I stood next to his mum and dad without even knowing at a pre-season friendly at Faversham 3 years ago now, come the summer, and they were really proud of him back then. And to see him flourishing as a outstanding young prospect in the game, who I think will go higher than Gillingham Football Club, is brilliant to see. And he speaks in his column and he says, in the summer my future here was up in the air. I was obviously hoping my contract would get extended because I'm local. I've been here a long time and I'm familiar with what goes on here. Anything can happen when the old manager isn't going to be there the next season. Thankfully, the current management came in pre-season and they liked what they saw from the first minute. I wasn't playing last season, so the gaffer didn't know me. You just have to make a good first impression, and that's what I did, so I'm here now. Absolutely sums him up to a T. Took his chance when Barry Fuller got injured at Bristol Rovers back in September. Hasn't looked back. I can probably say he's had 2, maybe 3 poor performances in that time since getting into the side on a regular basis. But we have to understand he is still a kid in terms of football career. He's still learning the game, and he's learning it against some of the best that League One has to offer, and a £45 million striker just over a week or so ago in Sebastian Haller, who played for West Ham in the Cup game. Kept Will Grigg in his back pocket, kept Kieran Agard in his back pocket, kept a clean sheet against Ivan Toney and Mo Issa at the weekend, kept Ipswich quiet Boxing Day. Been really good. Kept Sunderland quiet twice in a matter of weeks in the FA Cup and the league. So he's going up against the best that this division has to offer, and he's standing tall, and he's fronting up head on, and he's playing really well, and it's brilliant to watch, and it is lovely to hear the Rainer men sing Jackie Tucker is one of our own, because it's been a long time since we've had that type of thing. We all thought maybe Darren Oldacre could be the next one off the conveyor belt, but it didn't work out for one reason or another. So the last one we really had was Bradley Dack, and obviously we wish him a swift recovery. But yeah, that's enough in terms of a weekly roundup. Obviously, we do have a massive game on Saturday, and as I've already mentioned, this lot come to town to take us on. Oxford United beat us 3-0 in the reverse fixture at the Kassam Stadium back end of September, where we didn't turn up, and I think Max Amar does comment in today's paper about that. The headline is "We have learned from it." And the words that Max used to describe the performance that day were a shambles and nowhere near good enough. We know that. Unfortunately, myself, Boz and Stocky were there, and we were absolutely horrific. Oxford were a very good side, you could see that, but we just didn't get close enough for the 90 minutes. And aside from probably the first 6 or 7 minutes when we created a half chance, I think for Alex Jakubiak, we offered absolutely nothing. But we're a lot better than that now. Are they still in the same form that they were early on in the season? Maybe not. But they're not in bad form by any means. I just think they set the standard so high through the autumn that any little dip was going to look like maybe a slightly bigger blip than it actually is. And they currently sit 5th in League One, 25 played, 40 points. We've 25 played, 34 points. So the big carrot is if we can win on Saturday within 3 points, striking distance, 1 win of Oxford United, which would be a massive achievement. Considering you look at the comparative squads on paper. In terms of form, last 6, Gills drew 1, drew 1, drew. So 2 wins and 4 draws from the last 6 gives us 10 points out of 18. Oxford have exactly the same points, and theirs comes from 3 wins, a draw and 2 defeats. In terms of home and away form, our last 6 is lost 1-1, 1 drawn. Haven't lost since Rotherham, first weekend in November. That horrible 3-0 performance. But since then, been absolutely spot on. 13 points from 18 available. Away for the Yellows, 1 drawn, 1 lost, 1 lost. So start of that run was really good, but only 1 win in the last 3 and 2 defeats. 10 points from 18 on the road. We have no defeats in League One since the 23rd of November when we lost that game at Wimbledon. And no home defeat in the league since the 2nd of November, as I've already mentioned, Rotherham, and only conceded 3 goals in 7 League One games, and only 2 in the last 5 at home. So we're in good shape, I think is what I'm trying to say. Oxford on the road, winless in 3 in the league, which is probably a crisis for them, considering how good they have been. They've only scored 1 in their trio of games. In terms of threats, they've got plenty. They've got a very good squad all over the park. They've got quality. Tariq Fosu-Henry started the season like an absolute express train and got 8 in his first 16, but he's only got 1 in his last 15, so he has tailed off ever so slightly, but still will impact games with his ability and passing and technical ability and stuff like that. So obviously one to be aware of. James Henry scored 2 against us at the Kassam, was very good. He has 11 in 26. I think he's their top scorer this season. Rob Dickey, centre half, really good player. I think the Oxford fans have labelled him Virgil van Dickey. Cool. Matty Taylor, we know he's a threat at this level, and Cameron Brannigan. And there's plenty more as well that are probably not regulars for them in the league, and then they come in for cup games and show their quality and show what ability they have. So they're going to be a tough opponent Saturday. I think we're going to have to be right at it. We're benefiting from a full week off now after the hectic festive period. It's now back to regular league football, so we do get more time to rest and recover, which is only going to be a benefit. And in terms of team news, do not adjust your set. I am going to say this right. Matty Willock is fit and available and may start, Steve Evans said in his press conference this morning. So the only absentee, I think, is Mark Byrne with that ACL injury. As I've already mentioned, full week of rest since Portsmouth, Peterborough. That creditable 0-0 draw last Saturday. So in terms of team, I would stick with the same 11. I think if Steve Evans was willing to stick with it when we were playing every 3 or 4 days over the festive and New Year period, then why would he change it after another good result last weekend when we've had a full week to, get the legs and the aches and the pains and any niggles sorted out. So my team would be Jack Bonham, Barry Fuller, Max Amar, Jack Tucker, Connor Ogilvie, Alfie Jones, Stuart O'Keefe, Tom O'Connor, Ollie Lee, Brandon Hanlon and Jordan Roberts. I think from what I read and saw, he done enough last week on debut to keep his space in the team. The substitutes bench would be Joe Walsh, Matty Willock, Ben Pringle, Regan Charles Cook, Alex Jakubiak, Mika Mandron and Mark Marshall. Yeah, really looking forward to it. After all them games where we play sort of every 2 or 3 days and most of them were at home, especially with a cup run in there, the cup game in there as well. It's now been a fortnight. It feels like absolutely forever since I've last seen us playing. I can't wait to get back to the Priestfield Saturday afternoon. In terms of prediction, like I said, it's going to be tough. Oxford are going to cause us problems. They're going to have spells in the game where they're on top and they're going to, you know, get in behind us and create chances. We know that and we have to stand up to it. But if we play our game plan correctly and everyone does their job, knows their roles, I think we can pinch it by the odd goal. And for that reason, I'm going to say final score, Gillingham 2, Oxford United 1. I am going to back Jordan Roberts to open his account for the club. And I'm going to back Alex Jakubiak to come off the bench and get the second goal. Whether that is a winner or a clincher or one that sees us go 2-0 up, who knows. But that is my prediction. 2-1 to the Gills, Jordan Roberts and Alex Jakubiak on the score sheet. Right, that is enough from me this evening. No Boz tonight because he's working, unfortunately. So all three of us will be back Saturday for a match day live, which we're looking forward to. Hopefully Monday we'll then be able to return with another positive Monday review, looking back on another really good result and a really good performance. And fingers crossed, you never know, we might have some new signings. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. You know where we are. And until next time, up the Gills.